Hey, it's not that 70s show, but it is that 70s guitar. We're looking at Gibson's 70s Les Paul Deluxe models. We finally have them in our hot little hands, so stay tuned. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name's Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We're almost to 100,000. Turn on notifications, like our videos. If you'd like to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for our custom designed t-shirts, like this one, being your Vanna White for today. So we got 70s Deluxe Les Paul guitars.
Finally.
They're not new, but they're new to us.
Yeah.
So these came out earlier this year, right? Was it the NAMM show I think they were introduced?
Something like that. Because, I mean, they even put them up on the website. I've been looking at them for
We've been staring
months.
at them longer than we've had them. Yeah, we had these ordered, and like everything else in 2020, 2021, we have been waiting on them forever. So it's not just you. If you've been ordering a guitar and you've been waiting on it, it's not just you. We've been waiting on guitars too. But we finally have them, these throwbacks to the 70s.
Yeah.
And look, I can do it with one hand, shockingly.
Because that's heavy.
They are not weight relieved. And they've got some interesting specs to them. And we have some interesting anecdotal stories about some of these original ones. And despite the fact that these are 70s, let's just say that they're references to the 70s. Because I was joking with Coop earlier, if they were really 70s, we'd have a big seam down here. The back would be like 15-piece, and this would have the same density as a black hole. You know, it would weigh 1,500 pounds or something.
And it's getting pretty close to that.
They're pretty heavy. They've got some lift.
If you're one of the guys that watch the channel and constantly ask us to do lightweight guitars, this is not going to be on that list.
Do you even lift, bro? Like, this is not that heavy. You know, and if you don't lift, you could get started right now. Just like, you know.
You're going to get hurt.
10 reps. I'm feeling it in my elbow already.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
So, you know, it's got some weight to it.
Yeah. I think the first time I actually saw one in person was at Guitarlington.
Yeah. We won't go into details, but we saw one
on
at a table in Guitarlington of a non-Gibson dealer. I'm like, dude, you have these before we have them. What's up with that? But I won't go into that any further.
Whatever.
But it's new. We finally have them, so I guess hopefully they'll be hitting some more stores. 2 finishes. Mm-hmm. So you've got the Heritage Cherry, which I wonder if that will be the more popular or if it's the Goldtop, because I'm a bit of a sucker for a Goldtop.
You know, I was surprised that they didn't do a flame top on here. Is that something that's period accurate, or is that
it kind of varies.
Yeah.
You know, we saw them at Guitarlington. We think about the 70s models that we picked up or tried to.
Yeah.
Tried to pick it up, put it back on the table falls. No, you know, there were some that had flame, but there were a lot of plain top Les Pauls from that era.
I think this finish is interesting enough by itself. You know, it's a pretty wild color.
It's different from the Heritage Cherry. It's more of, it's the nicer 70s era Heritage Cherry. Let's put it that way. It's not the Clown Burst.
No Clown Burst, yeah.
Which, if you're not familiar, that's the one with the really yellow, really red, and not a whole lot of kind of fade to it. And you know, if you like clowns, it's cool. It's your thing. But yeah, I think this one's better.
I think the Goldtop is just a nice classic finish. You know,
it's very classy.
Yeah, it's cool. And obviously the mahogany has a different finish corresponding to each, which just, I think, fits, you know?
This one's only a 17-piece. No, I'm just kidding. Looks like it's a 2-piece.
I think this is a 2-piece
they're both matched. So that's how you can tell they're not really Norland era 70s guitars.
And I guess the other thing is the Mini-Humbuckers.
Yeah, I think there's basically 2 big takeaways from this. One is the neck shape. It's got a little chunkier C-shaped neck to it. So it's more like the 50s than the 60s. The 60s thins out, you know, quite a bit. And then the humbuckers, these Mini-Humbuckers are really where it's at in addition to the aesthetics for this guitar. So how many Mini-Humbucker guitars have you played?
Not a ton.
Okay.
I'm kind of trying to think. I think the only other time has been, so first of all, did those Taylors have Mini-Humbuckers on them?
The solid bodies?
Yeah.
Some of them did, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just trying to think. I know that I've played a Les Paul with Mini-Humbuckers on them before, but I think this is really the first time that I've played it and tried to listen to differences. As you can see behind us, we have a 50s standard, partly just to show off because it's like, hey, we finally got another one. So we do have one. You can tell the size difference. And we also got the Flying V just because, like, why not?
Why not?
Talk about finally having things. That's really nice.
All the manufacturers trying to get stuff out of the factories before they have to close their books at the end of the year and pay inventory tax. So anyways, we finally got this stuff in stock.
Give me the scoop on the minis and kind of what you know about the construction and the history and all that, because I'm not super familiar.
Sure. So Mini-Humbuckers are humbuckers. So the main theory around the construction is the same. You've got two coils. One of them acts as a kind of a counter-wound coil so that you buck the 60-cycle hum that single coils are victim to. So single coils that are silent, like the noiseless pickups, they do the same thing, only there's a dummy coil underneath the pickup to kind of do that. So in any case, you want a silent pickup, that's how you have to accomplish it. If it's a magnetic pickup, you have something that's the reverse polarity, and you cancel out the hum. So this is basically just shrinking down the package. The bobbins that the wires wound around are smaller, they're narrower, and it shrinks down the entire package. Now, what that does tonally is it makes it a brighter pickup. So if you think about how a single coil works, you've got a single stacked, or you've got a single row of magnets, and you've got this bobbin of wire around it, making an electromagnet. And it's hitting a magnetic field on the strings that are about the size of the pickup. If you look at the size of the pickup, that's about what the magnetic field looks like. If you take and you double that, which is effectively what a normal sized humbucker is, it's two single coils put together, then you have that much wider of a space that is picking up that magnetic field. So you're getting a bigger swath of the strings, which means you're getting all of these additional harmonies on these frequencies. That's what's happening. And that's how pickups work, period. They're like microphones. If you pick up the string here, it sounds warmer. If you get closer to the bridge, it sounds brighter, because if you pick closer to the bridge versus down here, it's warmer. If you put the pickup down here, it would sound 10 times warmer. That's how it works. So if that's how positioning works, then that's also how size works. And so by shrinking down this package, you get a pickup that bucks the hum, but it has more of a brighter, chimier sound, similar to a single coil, but not. And that's effectively what you're getting out of it. The output could still be hot. There are single coil pickups. A lot of people think, well, humbuckers are just hotter pickups. That's not necessarily the case. There's single coils that are hotter than some humbuckers. That's really about the types of magnets used, how many windings go into it, and so forth. So regardless of whether full size or mini humbuckers, your output could change, but your tonality is basically going to be brighter.
I mean, playing these, you can definitely kind of feel that more pointed tone. It's a little more focused in, as opposed to like the 50s or 60s. Sometimes, especially when you're on the neck pickup only, it's like this. It's almost like an acoustic guitar with the tone knob all the way down. It's very thick. And even on this one, at the most rhythm tone, it's still pretty bitey, which I like. Also, as you'll see in the demo, it's perfect on that bridge pickup for like a woman tone kind of thing. It's such a nice pickup for that. So I think that it goes along with the era, kind of the screaming tones, but still some thickness to it, And
I think it complements the Les Paul body and kind of design. So the design of the Les Paul gives you a ton of sustain, and its shorter scale length and mass tends to contribute to a lot of warmth, even if you have a lot of kind of bark that comes out of it, particularly when you have it, you're really pushing the amp. These, when we say brighter, they're not as bright as true single coils are, so they still got some more girth to them. But on some Les Pauls, you might think that a neck pickup, to your point, could get too muddy at times, And so I think for the era, the reason these were the deluxe models is it really did kind of tighten up all of that tone. And there's a lot of songs that were recorded on these from the era where you get that brightness and there's articulation and stuff that you otherwise wouldn't have heard on some older things. So they were definitely a nice thing. So interesting story about these deluxe models. There's a friend of ours who, so let's tell the Gary story first.
Mr. Smith.
So Mr. Smith, Gary, who we love dearly and has been here forever and will outlive us all. He's like the cockroach in the nuclear holocaust. He will still be here selling instruments. He had a 72, I think he said. and it had the mini humbuckers, and he thought what he needed was full-size humbuckers, so he routed it, and to this day regrets having done that.
Damn.
But a lot of people did it. It's kind of just what was, it was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, let's route these for bigger humbuckers now. Let's go back to it.
Whatever.
But we also have a friend, Nathaniel, whose father has one of these. He showed it to me once in the case that still had the receipt from Alamo Music Center that he bought from us back in the 70s. Thing is minty. Very, very cool. So that was
cool.
and I'm pretty sure it was that finish.
That's awesome.
So yeah, pretty neat stuff. So you're going to put this through this paces. Pay attention. If you listen and you're familiar with a typical Les Paul sound, you're going to hear something different that you might actually prefer and like a lot. So check it out. So there you have it. Finally, we get to demo for you Gibson's 1970s Les Paul Deluxe models. Currently available in these two finishes. I really like the Goldtop. Very cool. So final thoughts, what do you think about them?
I think it's an interesting move on their part because the 50s and 60s classic, everybody kind of knows what it's referencing. This is probably a little, not less known, but
Less loved.
a little less loved. And when it comes to the others, so we don't have the 60s up here, but we got the 50s. In the 60s, I think a lot of people, they could come in and be like, man, I was looking for one of those 60s, and we have a 50s, and they're like, ah, that works too. You know, you can
They're pretty similar.
Yeah, they're pretty similar in the feel and the sound, just a couple appointments that are different. This is a pretty different guitar.
It is a different, and you know, like the P90 Les Paul that we have gone on record of saying, like, that's an amazing guitar.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult for people to break out of the mold and the typical expectation of what a Les Paul is. And companies like Gibson and Fender always struggle against that expectation. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big advocate for trying to think outside the box and try new things. What's interesting about these is I think in ways Gibson's doing something that Fender's recently been doing. And that is trying to go back and revisit the stuff that came out in the 70s that doesn't have the best reputation, maybe isn't very loved, certainly isn't prized by collectors or valuable in the vintage market comparatively, and said, you know what, there was some cool stuff back then, and we should revisit that. And I think that's very good and very healthy because they're right. There was some cool stuff back then. You know, I try to remind people when we look at like 70s Fenders, which, you know, historically they just don't have a great vintage value. Yeah. People think of them as bad guitars. But like a thin line Tele, that's when it came out. A Tele Deluxe, that's when it came out. A Telecaster Custom, that's when it came out. You know, a 70s big headstock Strat is what Jimi Hendrix was playing at Woodstock. You know, it's like these were good guitars, and a lot of the songs and the sounds that we love from the era came from that. And some of it's specific to it, like when Fender did the Venteras and it had the non-staggered pole piece pickups on the 70s guitar. That has a very 70s sound to it. We suddenly identify like, oh yeah, I know that sound. Yeah. And you don't really get that tone out of a 60s guitar. It's the same thing with these. A lot of players, very famous players, were grabbing these guitars and playing on stages with them and recording with them, and yet they've kind of been lost to history. And so instead people gravitate to the 50s one, and that's cool. I love 50s Les Pauls. Yeah. But there's something to be said for these, and I think I'm just glad. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm glad Gibson's doing this, just like I'm glad Fender's doing it. I only hope that the public can embrace some of it. I hope the public embraces P90 Goldtop Les Pauls. Yeah. Because I want them to do more with it. And if people don't buy it, it just goes away again, which is sad. Because it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like any of these were bad ideas. It was just not the best execution. So when you take the ultra-modern ability to create something great, that might have been a great idea, but impossible to really do well at a certain time based on what was going on maybe in the company and the higher-ups or whatever.
Well, the thing, like, take these designs. The thing that was bad about the 70s Les Pauls was not mini-humbucking pickups on the Deluxe models. Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. It was the rest of the construction that was going on at Gibson at the time. Yeah. And a lot of those actually, I think, I've been seeing in a lot of Facebook groups of them getting their due. Like, are they heavier guitars? They are. But there's people that love, like, the customs of the era and stuff. You know, and so they're good guitars. You know, Frampton Comes Alive was a good album, and he was playing on a good guitar. So. Yeah.
I think they're definitely worth consideration if you're in the market for a Les Paul. And
keep this in mind, mini-humbucking pickups haven't gone anywhere. They've changed names a few times. Yeah. You know, like PRS has a thing called Narrowfields. Guess what? It's a mini-humbucker. I mean, it's their own design, don't get me wrong, but the concept's the same. Yeah. To your point, when Taylor was doing their solid body guitars, they had mini humbuckers on. Why? Because you wanted a humbucking tone that was a little bit tighter in response, a little bit brighter sound. Yeah. You know, so you're kind of getting that best of both worlds. You're not going too muddy, you're not going too bright. It's kind of right. It's the sweet spot, really. So there you go. They should have called this the Gibson Les Paul sweet spot.
Don't even put the word sweet in there because then they'll go to Sweetwater. It's like a whole other thing. It's the cool spot. Yeah, we are lucky to have them. Get them fast because we've already sold a little bit, and so who knows when we're going to get more. But
Yeah, so if you want information about either of these guitars, they go to our website.
you got to go to alamomusic.com. Like, come on. If you haven't been there already, you can filter through. You can find all the Gibsons that we've got. Gibson, unfortunately, does not let you purchase online. So
From us
Yeah. So
and other smaller dealers.
hopefully, you'll see this video in the future, and that's a false statement. But at this point in time, you got to give us a call. You got to come in. We'll still make it happen for you.
That's cool. You just get the personal touch.
Yeah,
You get
absolutely.
to talk to somebody. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah.
Talking to a person.
You got to talk to somebody.
So yeah, give us a call or come in and try these out, and I guarantee this: if you give it a try, a lot of you are going to like it. Like them a lot. Some of you aren't. You're going to go, no, I'll take the original Les Paul. But
Yeah.
some of you are going to go, you know what? They're right. That sounds
Yeah.
really good. That's kind of like the Goldilocks pickup. I dig it.
Goldilocks top, the Goldilocks gold top. All right. All right.
So there you have it. The very best guitar in the world is a 1970s Les Paul Deluxe reissue, because it's better made than the 70s ones, arguably. If you are new to our channel, this is what we do. We talk about guitars. We run down the specs for you. We tell you what's what, and I hope you appreciate it. If you do, make sure that you subscribe, because we're almost to 100,000 subscribers, and I appreciate every single one of you that clicks on that subscribe button. Like the video, and drop us a comment below. Tell us your 70s Les Paul experience. Good, bad, otherwise. Did you follow the Gary route and route your Les Paul only to regret it later on when you went to resell it? We'd love to hear all those anecdote stories and more from you. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.